A.D.E.V.
Okay, now let's move on to its uses. It has two main uses. First, we use it for a recent activity, okay, whose traces can be seen in the present time. Okay, for a recent activity or action whose traces can be seen in the present time. For example, it's been raining. It's been raining. The streets are wet. For example, imagine it's early in the morning, you go out in the streets and you realize that the streets are wet. So you can say, it's been raining. It's been raining. Why? Because you see that the streets are wet. The streets are wet. These are the traces of this recent activity. Okay? Another example, you can say, a father can say to his child, you have been smoking. You have been smoking. You have been smoking. Okay? I can feel the smoke of cigarette or cigarette. Okay. You've been smoking, that is, the child we are talking about smoked a few moments ago, and because of the smell, his father realizes that his child has been smoking. So these are the traces. The smoke of cigarettes is a trace of this recent action. Okay? Now, let's move on to the other use of this sentence, of this tense story. So, we can also use the present perfect continuous for an action, okay, that started in the past and continues up to the present. But remember, it is used with action verbs. In this context, only action verbs are used. So for an action that started in the past and continues up to the present. Okay? Now, in this context, okay, it is associated like the present perfect simple with for or since. In this context, for or since are used. To give an example, For your information, I began to teach in 1985. That's the year when I started teaching, and I haven't stopped teaching up to now. So I can say I have been teaching since 1985 for many years. So as you can see, it is a long time ago. Most of your teachers, I'm sure, were not born at that time, because it is a long time ago. So I've been teaching since 1985, meaning that I started teaching in 1985 and I haven't stopped teaching. Okay? So 6 because we know the beginning of the action, and 4 here because I insisted on the duration, many years as the duration. So before we wrap up this lesson, something you should remember. Okay? Something you should bear in mind. The present distance, that is, the present perfect continuous, is used with action verbs only. Action verbs. Verbs. Unlike the other tense, the present perfect simple. Now, let's move on to the last part of our lesson, that is exercises. We are going to do 2 exercises. One exercise in which you have to put the verb either into the present perfect simple or into the present perfect continuous, and this will be followed by a translation exercise. So first, exercises. Put the verbs in brackets into the correct tense. What I mean by correct tense is either use the present perfect simple or the present perfect continuous. Okay? Fine? You drive for 3 hours. Let me drive. Two, you know him since you were a child. Read. He danced all night long. He's sleeping. Okay, just 3 sentences. Now, you drive for 3 hours. Let me drive. What's it? The answer is you have been driving for 3 hours. You've been driving for 3 hours. Let me drive. As you can see, it's an action that started in the past and continues up into the present. And since drive is an action verb, we prefer this form to the other form. Now, you know him since you were a child. Because know is not an action verb, we will not use this tense, but rather the present perfect simple. So we say, you have known. You have known. And not you have been knowing, which would be incorrect. You have known him since you were a child. Now, 3, he danced all night long. He's sleepy. Again, action verb. He has been dancing all night long. He is sleepy. He is sleepy. Okay? Now, remember, the person we are talking about, okay, is not dancing. He stopped dancing a while ago. Okay? But he's been dancing all night. He spent his night dancing. As a result, he is sleepy. That's the traces here. The traces here is he's sleepy. Okay, or that action, that recent action. He has been dancing all night. He is sleepy. Okay? Right. So this brings us to the end of this sequence. Thank you for your attention.